The story of the American Revolution is one of defiance, belief, and transformation, a tale of ordinary people who stood against an empire and changed the course of history. It begins in the mid-18th century, when 13 British colonies stretched along the eastern seaboard of North America, thriving under the rule of a distant king. The colonists saw themselves as loyal British subjects, proud of their heritage and grateful for the security and trade Britain provided. Yet beneath that loyalty simmered a growing tension, a quiet unease rooted in questions of freedom, representation, and destiny. After the costly French and Indian War ended in 1763, Britain sought to recover its massive debts by taxing its colonies, sparking resentment across the Atlantic. The Stamp Act of 1765, which imposed taxes on legal documents and printed materials, struck a nerve among colonists who believed taxation without representation was tyranny. Protests erupted from Boston to Charleston, uniting merchants, farmers, and intellectuals under the cause of liberty. The phrase, "no taxation without representation," echoed through taverns and meeting halls, symbolizing a new political awakening. Britain repealed the Stamp Act, but the damage was done. A seed of rebellion had been planted. The Townshend Acts followed, taxing imports like glass, tea, and paper, deepening colonial anger and leading to boycotts of British goods. Tensions reached a boiling point on March 5, 1770, when British soldiers opened fire on a crowd in Boston, killing 5 colonists in what became known as the Boston Massacre. The tragedy was immortalized in pamphlets and engravings, turning outrage into action and propaganda into passion. Still, both sides hesitated to sever ties completely, hoping reconciliation might yet be possible. But in 1773, when Parliament granted the struggling East India Company the right to sell tea directly to the colonies, bypassing local merchants, it ignited fury. Disguised as Mohawk Indians, the Sons of Liberty boarded ships in Boston Harbor and dumped over 300 chests of tea into the water. The infamous Boston Tea Party. In retaliation, Britain passed the Coercive Acts, closing the harbor and tightening control over Massachusetts, effectively declaring war on its defiance. The colonies responded not with submission, but solidarity. In 1774, delegates from 12 colonies gathered in Philadelphia for the First Continental Congress, pledging to stand together against British oppression. When British troops marched on Lexington and Concord in April 1775 to seize colonial weapons, they were met by armed militia, the Minutemen. No one knows who fired the first shot, but it was called "the shot heard round the world." The American Revolution had begun. Farmers, blacksmiths, and townsmen stood against the world's most powerful army, driven by conviction more than weaponry. Soon after, the Second Continental Congress appointed George Washington, a Virginian planter and former soldier, as commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. Washington's leadership would become legendary, marked by perseverance, humility, and faith in a cause greater than himself. In 1776, as war raged, delegates met again in Philadelphia to debate their future, and a young Virginian named Thomas Jefferson put their ideals into words. The Declaration of Independence, adopted on July 4th, declared that all men are created equal and endowed with unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was both a statement of principle and an act of treason against the British Crown. King George III viewed the colonies not as equals seeking self-rule, but as rebels who must be subdued by force. British forces soon captured New York City, forcing Washington's army into desperate retreats across New Jersey. Yet in the bleak winter of 1776, Washington crossed the icy Delaware River and surprised Hessian troops in Trenton, a daring victory that revived American morale. From then on, the Revolution became a war of endurance, fought not only with muskets and cannons, but with ideas and determination. Ordinary citizens became spies, smugglers, and soldiers. Women ran farms, raised funds, and even took up arms. African Americans and Native peoples found themselves caught between promises of freedom and the harsh realities of war. By 1777, the British sought to cut off New England from the rest of the colonies by seizing control of the Hudson River. Their plan unraveled at Saratoga, where American forces led by General Horatio Gates and Benedict Arnold achieved a stunning victory. The Battle of Saratoga became the turning point of the war, convincing France that the American cause could succeed. In 1778, France formally entered the war as an ally to the colonies, providing ships, troops, and money that transformed the conflict into a global struggle. Spain and the Dutch Republic would later follow, stretching British forces thin across multiple continents. Meanwhile, the Continental Army endured brutal winters at places like Valley Forge, where Washington's men faced hunger, disease, and freezing temperatures. But under the training of Baron von Steuben, a Prussian officer, the army became more disciplined and battle-ready. When spring came, they emerged tougher, united by sacrifice and belief in their mission. In the southern colonies, Britain shifted strategy, capturing Charleston and winning early victories in hopes of rallying Loyalist support. Yet guerrilla fighters like Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox, led hit-and-run attacks that bled the British effort dry. Meanwhile, in the north, Benedict Arnold's betrayal shocked the colonies, reminding everyone that victory was never guaranteed. By 1781, the British commander Lord Cornwallis fortified his army at Yorktown, Virginia, unaware that a trap was closing in. Washington and French General Rochambeau marched their combined forces south, while the French Navy blocked British escape by sea. After weeks of siege and bombardment, Cornwallis surrendered his army on October 19, 1781. The war was effectively over, though fighting lingered in scattered regions for 2 more years. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed, recognizing the independence of the United States of America. The world had witnessed the impossible. A collection of colonies had defeated an empire. But the revolution did not end with victory. It only began the harder task of building a nation. The framers of the new republic struggled to balance liberty and order, ensuring the ideals of the revolution could live in the structure of government. The Constitution, ratified in 1788, became the blueprint for self-rule, inspired by the sacrifices of those who fought for it. The revolution's echoes reached far beyond America, inspiring movements in France, Latin America, and beyond, reshaping the global conversation on freedom. Yet, for all its ideals, the young republic faced contradictions. Slavery persisted, native lands were encroached upon, and women remained excluded from political life. The promise of liberty was powerful, but imperfect, requiring generations to fulfill its meaning. Still, the American Revolution remains a defining moment, not because it was flawless, but because it dared to imagine a world where people could govern themselves. It proved that ideas could be stronger than empires, and that courage could change the course of human history. Today, the revolution stands as a reminder that freedom is not a gift, but a responsibility, one that must be guarded by every generation. The words penned in 1776 still challenge us, that all are created equal, and that governments derive their power from the consent of the governed. The men and women who lived through those years of war could scarcely have imagined how far their experiment would reach. They lit a spark of liberty that continues to burn across centuries, inspiring people in every corner of the world. The revolution was not the end of struggle, but the beginning of a story still being written. From the cobblestone streets of Boston to the fields of Yorktown, their courage built the foundation of a new kind of nation. A nation founded not on kings or bloodlines but on ideas, freedom, equality, and self-determination. And though history has tested those ideals again and again, their flame endures. Each generation inherits the same question the revolutionaries faced. What does freedom mean, and what are we willing to do to preserve it? The American Revolution was more than a war. It was a rebirth of human possibility, a declaration that the right to shape one's destiny belongs to every person, not to the few in power. As we look back, We honor not only the victories, but the vision that carried them. A vision that began with courage, endured through sacrifice, and lives on in every pursuit of justice today. So, as we remember the American Revolution, let us carry forward its message that freedom, once won, must always be protected. Thank you for watching this exploration of one of history's greatest transformations. If you enjoyed this presentation, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world. And let us know in the comments, what other chapters of history would you like us to bring to life next?